Okay, before we begin, I delayed this Naruto chapter review because there was a lot of information in just this one chapter. So much that I had to take some time off to get my thoughts straight, even after reading both Manga Panda and Manga Stream translations. So I apologize for being late with this one. But even though I did have some time to think things through, I still don't know what to think about this. Hey guys, LunaSpawn27 here, bringing you Naruto chapter 681, Kaguya's Tears. So the chapter begins with the aftermath of Sasuke's attack in the previous chapter, as both he and Naruto are knocked back from the sheer force of the explosion. It seems that Sasuke at first was going to fall into the river of lava, but he uses his Shunshin Jutsu, the enhanced version that he obtained from the Rikudo Sennin, to teleport right behind Naruto, and he grabs onto his foot to prevent himself from falling into the lava. He uses one of Naruto's Geto-damas as a platform, which I didn't understand why Naruto didn't use those Geto-damas for Kakashi and Sakura, but I guess he needs those to fight against Kaguya, maybe. Now with Kaguya, it seems that she disappeared from the explosion, but it turns out she entered into her own pocket dimension as she returns using the Garganta. No, I am not kidding, it is the freaking Garganta. So did she go to Hueco Mundo to escape Sasuke's attack? Anyway, Kaguya appeared right behind Naruto and Sasuke. Both boys sensed her presence, but it was too late to do anything as she touches their faces and starts to cry. Now, at first, I thought Kaguya was crying because Naruto and Sasuke reminded her of her two sons and she misses them, but that doesn't really seem to be the case, which I'll get to that later. And speaking of the sons, we actually get a panel of both Hagoromo and Homura, which we finally get to see what he looks like, and honestly, he resembles a lot like Kaguya, except without the Rinnegan Sharingan hybrid eye on his forehead. He does seem to have the Byakugan, so maybe he was the one that created the Hyuga clan. And unfortunately, we still don't know anything about Homura. He is mentioned in this chapter, but we still don't know a lot about this guy. Now, Naruto and Sasuke couldn't move, which I didn't really understand why they couldn't. Maybe Kaguya placed a paralysis jutsu on them or something, but all I know is that once she touched their faces, they couldn't move. So she begins to absorb their chakras as the black ooze starts to cover half of their bodies, creating two Black Zetsus. Now, it is true that Kaguya was reminded of her two sons when she saw Naruto and Sasuke, but the reason why she was crying was because she felt betrayed by her two sons. Apparently, Hagoromo and Homura sealed her away, even though Hagoromo said that they sealed the Jubi away. As for Black Zetsu, his voice and presence has completely changed as he tells Naruto and Sasuke that even though he recorded everything during Kaguya's absence, he was the true mastermind behind everything. He was the one that created the story of the shinobi and changed it so that he can resurrect Kaguya. Yeah. All the terrible shit that happened in this series was all part of Black Zetsu's plan to resurrect Kaguya. Well, technically, it's Kaguya that's the true mastermind since she was the one that created Black Zetsu, but Black Zetsu did all the work, so he's technically the mastermind behind everything. He is the Aizen in the Naruto universe. So since Naruto and Sasuke didn't know the actual truth, Black Zetsu decides to tell them while Kaguya is absorbing their chakra. So the seal that was used on Kaguya was a very powerful seal, which turned the Jubi into the core of the Chibaku Tensei, which is how the Jubi became the moon. Okay, I wasn't sure how to interpret this, but from what has been read, it seems that the core used in the Chibaku Tensei was originally the Jubi? So does this mean that back when Pain and Madara used Chibaku Tensei, does that mean that they summoned a bit of the Jubi to use the jutsu or something? Well, anyway, how did Kaguya get sealed when it was the Jubi that got sealed? Well, it turns out that the Jubi was not just the Shinju, but it was a mix of the Shinju and Kaguya. So Kaguya, along with the Shinju, fused together to turn into the Jubi. As for the reason, well, it was translated into two different parts. I wasn't sure which one is true and which one isn't. In the manga stream translation, the reason why she was taking back chakra was so that she can disperse it among her two children. She's going to give it to her two sons. But in the manga panda translation, she was trying to take back the chakra that was shared between her two sons. So she was taking back chakra from her own children, keeping it to herself. So we have one translation and we have another, and I have no idea which one is legit, which makes this even more confusing than it has to be. Because in the next panel, Black Zetsu said that Hagoromo was oblivious to all this. Was he oblivious to Kaguya being the Jubi? Was he oblivious to Kaguya taking chakra away from him and his brother? Or was he oblivious that Kaguya wanted to give chakra to himself and his brother? Well, one thing I can definitely say is true is that Hagoromo was oblivious to Black Zetsu and his actions. Now, we all know that the Rikudo Sennin raised his two children, Indra and Ashura, and created the ninja religion, Ninshu. But when Indra lost the conflict over the leadership of Ninshu, Black Zetsu tempted him and Indra became his first pawn. Granted, I don't know what Black Zetsu tempted him into doing, but if it is the whole Indra and Ashura conflicts, which also included the successors after them, then as I said before, it was all Black Zetsu's doing. But wait, there's more. Black Zetsu wanted the Uchiha Clan, the descendants of Indra, to be a part of his story, so what he did is altered what Hagoromo wrote, which is the frickin' stone monument in Nakagami Shrine. Well, that probably explains why Hagoromo's words and the ways of the Ninshu was lost to the world of shinobi, but everything that we assumed was written on that frickin' stone tablet was a lie? If that's the case, then what was originally written on the stone tablets? Hell, Black Zetsu even wrote that the Infinite Tsukiyomi will save the Uchiha Clan. But what I don't understand is, I thought you need the Mangekyo Sharingan, or was it the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan or the Rinnegan? Well, either one of those eye powers in order to read what it says on the stone tablet. I mean, one with an original Sharingan couldn't be able to read what it says, but it seems that Black Zetsu tricked the entire Uchiha Clan, including Madara. Now, I don't know if he is responsible for the Uchiha and Senju conflicts, but if he is, then yeah, Aizen of the Naruto universe. I don't know what else to say. Anyway, Black Zetsu would approach the successors of Ashura and Indra in both the Uchiha and the Senju clans in an attempt to awaken the Rinnegan, but he failed from one era to the next until he reached the era of Madara and Hashirama, and he was convinced that Madara would be capable of awakening the Rinnegan. Now, we learned how Madara obtained Hashirama's cells, and it was during his fight against him at the Valley of the End. Apparently, Madara bit off a chunk of his flesh from his arm. You'd think that Hashirama would notice that someone was biting on his arm. Not only that, but that was how Madara obtained his cells, by biting him. I mean, why not slice off a chunk of flesh with that scythe of his, or, get some hair? It doesn't have to be a piece of flesh to obtain Hashirama's DNA. Anything that has Hashirama's DNA in it would be fine. What makes this even weirder is that he actually swallowed the flesh, and after his battle with Hashirama, he barfed out the flesh, or according to Manga Panda's translation, Hashirama's meat. That doesn't help. But here's the thing, Madara actually died when he lost to Hashirama. Now, remember in the flashback when Hashirama was looking up the cliff, assuming that he sensed something? It turns out that something was Black Zetsu, who was spying on them the whole time. That actually makes sense because I was wondering if someone was actually up there when Hashirama looked up at that cliff, and turns out it was Black Zetsu, so yeah. Now, Madara's body wasn't disposed of, and this is where the translations make this even more confusing. Now, in the Manga Panda translation, Tobirama hid Madara's corpse deep in the forests of Konoha, but in the manga stream translation, it was Black Zetsu that hid the corpse deep within the mountains. So was it Tobirama that hid Madara's corpse, or was it Black Zetsu? Which one was it? Well, anyway, even though Madara did die, he did survive the battle, otherwise he wouldn't have met Obito. So how did he resurrect himself? Izanagi. I'm not that surprised he would use Izanagi. It was how he used it. Just like how Sasuke got Amaterasu from Itachi, Madara had put Izanagi into his right eye. How? Because Itachi transferred Amaterasu to Sasuke by poking his forehead before he died. How did Madara do that? Also, if he did have Izanagi in his right eye, did he activate it before he died and then it triggered when he was hidden? Because how can you activate a jutsu if you're already dead? I mean, it could have been like how Danzo activated Izanagi, but in the manga string translation, he said that he was able to learn techniques into his eye outside of time. Outside of time? Really? You know what? I'm gonna assume that Izanagi activated before he died, but was triggered right when his body was hidden. Because how else could you possibly explain how Madara was able to use Izanagi during his fight with Hashirama? But here's another thing I don't understand. Later on, Madara activated the Rinnegan in both his eyes. His right eye was blind. So you'd think that the Rinnegan would be activated in his one seeing eye, but no, that doesn't seem to be the case. I assumed that he used a spare Sharingan eye, but he did say that he gave his original eyes to Nagato, so he probably didn't use a spare Sharingan eye. So I guess when activating the Rinnegan, it doesn't matter if you're blind or not. Alright, moving on. Madara escaped by replacing his body with a Kagebunshin, and right after throwing up the piece of Hashirama's flesh, he implanted that into his wounds, and that was how he awakened the Rinnegan, and he was able to summon the Gedomazo. Now, if there is one thing that I'm glad that Kishimoto has cleared up, it is the White Zetsu creation. Hashirama's flesh was cultivated within the Gedomazo, and it was how Madara was able to prolong its survival. Now, those results led to the creation of the White Zetsus during the time, but originally White Zetsus were created from people who were trapped in the previous Infinite Tsukiyomi. Now that actually makes sense to me. So originally White Zetsus were people who were once trapped in the Infinite Tsukiyomi. So does this mean that the Shinobi Alliance this whole time were fighting against people that were trapped in the Infinite Tsukiyomi? As for Hashirama's cells, I figured that they were added into the mix to help enhance the White Zetsu's power. Now here's the thing, I always wondered how Madara was tricked into believing that he was the one that created Black Zetsu using his will, since we saw how he quote-unquote created Black Zetsu. Well, according to the manga stream translation, Black Zetsu said that he quietly made his way out of the Gedomazo. So, since Madara and Gedomazo were connected, I assumed that he entered the Gedomazo and then entered inside Madara, and that was how he tricked Madara into thinking that he created him. That's a possible theory, but it hasn't really been confirmed yet. But what has been confirmed, and I really didn't want to say this, but it can't be helped, Madara got played badly. The villain that we thought was the final villain was just a puppet to Black Zetsu, the true mastermind. Or is it Kaguya? But it doesn't matter at this point. So you know all the rest of the things that Black Zetsu was responsible for. The Akatsuki, collecting the bijous, the frickin' war. Not only that, but he intentionally showed Madara's corpse to Kabuto in order to increase their battle power. And finally, getting Obito to collaborate with Kabuto and use both of them, all part of his diabolical plan to awaken the Infinite Tsukiyomi and gather an enormous amount of chakra that was collected from the people under the Genjutsu in order to revive Kaguya. The new Aizen, ladies and gentlemen! Oh my god. I'm sorry, it's so much to take in this one chapter. You'd think with all this dialogue and information, this would go on for 2-3 chapters. That usually happens in Naruto, but no, all of this in one chapter has completely changed the story that we thought we knew was Naruto. By the way, if you guys are wondering if I feel sorry for Kaguya, I was going to, but the more I think about it, I'm not. Because I'm pretty sure there was a good reason that Hagoromo and Homura had to stop their own mother, considering that she is a power-hungry psycho. But I feel like we have to get Kaguya's backstory in this somehow, because there's still some things we don't know about her. I mean, let's say that Kaguya did want to take back chakra to give to her own sons. Both sons had no idea about this, so why couldn't Kaguya tell her sons about her plan? But even even if she didn't tell them, I assume they believed that what she was doing was wrong. But again, as I said before, we're gonna need Kaguya's backstory into this. We're only hearing Black Zetsu's side of the story, but not Kaguya's. Also, the more I think about it, the 9 bijous all have a part of Kaguya inside them, since Kaguya and the Shinju was a mixture of the Jubi. But back with the 2 sons, I think they believed that what Kaguya was doing was wrong and had to stop her for the sake of saving the world or something. But I do understand why she was crying, which was because she felt betrayed by her 2 sons. So after that flashback, we cut to her giving off this intense stare with her Byakugan activated, even though she was still crying, saying, "I hate you. Hagoromo, Hamura, you both belong to me." So, with all that being said and done, Black Zetsu then proceeds to return to Kaguya, or what he calls her, the almighty mother goddess. But Naruto's not giving up, saying, "You people of all things are not the history of ninjas," as he tears off Black Zetsu from one of Kaguya's arms, and then tears off the other Black Zetsu from Sasuke while saying, "A mother is happy when her children gain their independence and leave." Okay, here's the thing. Why did Naruto do that earlier? Because their chakra was getting absorbed by Kaguya. If he did that sooner, then maybe they wouldn't lose a lot of chakra. Screw it. So Kaguya, I guess, didn't obtain Naruto and Sasuke's chakra, and the chapter ends with Sasuke saying that they have to create an opening to use the sealing jutsu, so Naruto tells him that they gotta use that jutsu. So yeah, that is Naruto chapter 681. What did I think? Well, I don't know what to say. I still don't know what to say about this chapter. On the one hand, I'm glad that Kishimoto did clear up some things, but on the other hand, this also raises a couple more questions. It also adds more things that don't make a lot of sense, and also, in one chapter, what we were led to believe was the actual story of Naruto was not really the story of Naruto, because everything happened because of freaking Black Zetsu. Basically, in one chapter, the entire story has changed. The idea of Black Zetsu being the true mastermind behind everything that was bad in the history of Naruto. The Akatsuki, capturing the bijous, awakening the Rinnegan, Madara, Obito, Infinite Tsukiyomi, the frickin' war. All that was because of Black Zetsu's plan to resurrect Kaguya. Well, Black Zetsu, I wasn't really expecting that, so that is certainly a twist. But on the other hand, I'm like, what? Because it's so hard to believe, especially with how the story is right now. I don't know. I feel like I've learned some things in this chapter, but I feel like I'm missing something. I just hope I'm not the only one who is feeling like this. Although with all those flashbacks and information, you'd think this would last for like another 2 chapters, but no, this was all in one chapter. So next week, we'll continue the Kaguya versus Naruto and Sasuke fight. Now, Naruto and Sasuke are planning to use that jutsu, which will give them an opening to seal Kaguya. What is that jutsu? I have no idea, but I can assume that in order to use the jutsu, both Naruto and Sasuke have to use it together. Although if you ask me, I don't know if sealing Kaguya again will be a good idea, because I feel like that they have to kill her. I mean, Hagoromo and Hamura sealed her, but because of Black Zetsu, she's free again. So what if Kaguya does something before she gets sealed and then returns again? Well, whatever the sealing jutsu is, it has to be a really powerful one that will seal Kaguya for good. So tell me guys, what do you think of this week's chapter of Naruto? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Any ideas of what that jutsu is? And what do you think of Black Zetsu being the mastermind behind everything in Naruto, basically? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to like the video if you like it and subscribe to more videos, and be sure to check out my Facebook fan page and Google+. So yeah, that is Naruto chapter 681. This was a whatever. I really can't give it a good or a bad, honestly. I still don't know what to think of this chapter. I'm Lunar Spawn 27, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.